Hello, Buzz. Tim here again. Another movie review, this time for Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon. Now, this has been out for a little while now, and there's a lot of reviews for it out already, and I figured, why not give it a watch myself, because I was interested in the movie. I'm a Zack Snyder fan. I don't love Zack Snyder like some of his hardcore fans do, and I'm not like an over-the-top Zack Snyder hater or anything. Like, I like Zack Snyder. I think he's a good director. I don't think he's a visionary director like some of his hardcore fans say and stuff like that. Like, Zack Snyder's not an originator. He doesn't come up with like new stuff. Like most of his stuff and most of his work is just adaptations and redos of stuff that's already been out there. Just like this movie, which is pretty much a mix of like multiple different types of sci-fi and everything. Um, like his DC adaptations, those are adaptations. Watchmen, that's an adaptation. Even Sucker Punch is pretty much like a somewhat copy of Nolan's Inception and stuff like that. So he's not an originator. He always takes from other stuff and mixes it together and tries to make it like his own thing. But still, though, it still mostly feels derivative of stuff that's already been out. Now, as far as Zack Snyder goes in terms of his other movies, and when I did a commentary for Batman vs Superman, I think I called it like a masterpiece in my commentary. Rewatching it now, I don't like that film as much as I did. I don't hate it. I still don't think it's a bad movie. For Zack Snyder's own take on the DC universe, like I consider Man of Steel. BVS Ultimate Cut and Snyder Cut, I consider that like a trilogy. You really don't even need to see any of the other DCU just to see those three. Those work as just a self-contained trilogy, pretty much. So I just see that as like Zack Snyder's own take on the material. Like in terms of like how my opinion has changed on some of his movies, like Man of Steel has went up. Like it used to be like a pretty good movie. I think that one's great now. I'd give it like a 4 out of 4. I think that's a great like Superman origin solo movie. And then Batman vs Superman: The Ultimate Cut, I think it is clunky, and I do not like Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. But as a movie for what it is, I'd give it a 3 out of 4. I think it's good entertainment. I love Ben Affleck's Batman in it. Snyder Cut, I still love. I still pretty much have the same thoughts on that as I did when I reviewed it. Easily a 4 out of 4. I think it's a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite superhero flicks of all time. But it's also pretty much like a director's cut. And that's another thing with Zack Snyder is he can be a bit too self-indulgent. His movies do come off longer than what they need to be because he's really self-indulgent with his ideas and everything. And he doesn't want to cut certain things because he's just so in love with what he's doing in terms of his movies. But yeah, that is one of his weaknesses as a director. Sucker Punch, I do not like. I don't absolutely hate it, but I do not like it at all. I'm not a fan. I'd give it like a low 2 out of 4 for the director's cut. For the theatrical cut, I'd probably give it like a 1.5 or a 1. It sucked. But I'm not a fan of Sucker Punch at all. Maybe I need to give it a rewatch, but that movie's never warmed up to me at all. His Guardians of the Owl movie, I liked it. I thought it was good for a family flick. Had some cool visuals and stuff like that. Overall, I liked that one. Didn't love it, but I liked it. His other movies, Army of the Dead, another one I thought was... Some people don't like that one. He got like a 60-something critic score, so critics somewhat liked it. As far as it goes for me, I thought it was a good, silly B-movie zombie flick. I didn't love it. It wasn't anything revolutionary or anything, but it was silly fun. Army of the Dead. I mean, Dawn of the Dead, his remake, I thought was awesome. Awesome action flick zombie film. 300, I thought was a good, silly, somewhat ridiculous, just bro dude movie. But it was good fun. Watchmen, another one I thought was a good adaptation with great visuals. I liked that one. Didn't love it, but I liked it. It was a good adaptation with great visuals. I'm trying to think of. I'm not hoping I'm not forgetting any of. I think I've named off all of his films. But now up to Rebel Moon Part 1, I'd say I liked it. I'd give it a 3 out of 4. I didn't love it, but I did like it. I know critics are railing on it. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as critics say. It is derivative of lots of other science fiction films with like laser swords and everything, of course, from Star Wars. It really reminded me of Dune a lot, with like this, like the people being farmers and everything and stuff like that on like this planet that looks like somewhat like a little bit like a barren type place. Kind of reminds me of Dune, and you got like these Imperial dudes or whatever who are kind of like space Nazis, kind of like the evil guys from Star Wars, but kind of remind me more of like Dune military characters and stuff. Overall, though, I enjoyed this movie. It is not flawless. It is not a perfect film whatsoever. For the most part, I thought the movie was alright to decent. Zack Snyder does overuse the slow-mo for the beginning of it. The movie is too long, and the biggest weakness to this movie is it really feels kind of episodic because Sophia Botello, or whatever, who plays like the star here, who's like this, who used to be in the member of the bad guys Nazi team when she was little, and they never really explained what inspired her to like desert the group or whatever. They're saving that for part 2. But she does a good job overall here. She's not great in the movie, but she does do a good job. She does a good job with the action. She doesn't really have the charisma to completely lead a movie, but most of this movie is kind of ensemble because she's putting a team together to protect her farming planet. Yeah, Anthony Hopkins is the voice of a robot who they just give him a little bit of stuff to do. They set him up to be a bigger part in part 2. You got Ed Skrein or Skrein, I'm not sure how you say his name, who's like the asshole villain in Deadpool. Here is like the main bad guy who's beating people with sticks. He's pretty much the Darth Vader to the main villain, who's the Emperor, who's the dude who pretty much like took Sofia Boutella when she was a little girl from her own planet, tried to raise her inside this army, military or whatever. And they're just standard Nazi assholes. Like, that's the thing. The evil guys in here, the evil military group or whatever, they're just kind of one-note, like, rapists and everything. Just kind of the standard cliche bad guys you've seen in 100 other movies like this. So that, yeah, that is there is some weaknesses to the writing here. Snyder's not the greatest writer, but he is good at visuals and he's good at fun. So when it gets to the action here, the action is good. This movie does feel held back by a PG-13 rating, which I know there's going to be an R-rated cut, director's cut, but I'm just focusing on this one. This movie feels held back by the PG-13 rating in terms of the action, because you get some action where people get stabbed and they obviously should be bleeding, but because it's PG-13, they're not really going to go for it. So it does feel weakened by that, but the action is still well choreographed and it is still fun in the movie. Sofia Boutella has to go around like recruiting people, and this is when it starts to feel kind of episodic. They go from like place to place and just recruiting random people, and you get like brief moments of their backstories or whatever, and you get a brief action scene with them like doing something. And that's when it starts to feel like maybe this would have been better as a TV series, split into like little episodes is what it started feeling like to me. But you do get some fun, cool action scenes with them, like this Asian chick with laser swords fighting this mutant Spider Woman, which the mutant Spider Woman thing just kind of feels thrown in just for the cool action scene. But at the same time, it is a cool action scene. And then you get the scene where this long-haired dude who looks like a male model, like jumping on this Griffith or whatever and flying around on it like a mixture of some fantasy stuff along with the sci-fi stuff that Snyder is doing here. Sorry, I had a piece of dirt or something in my mouth there for a second. But yeah, Snyder mixing genres together here. But it does make it entertaining. You get to the end pretty much, and you find out like the bounty hunter dude, one of the people that they recruited who acted like he wanted to help him, he's actually just a sellout. I actually kind of like that twist. And then he gets ready to make like the farmer dude who like has a crush on Sofia Boutella's character, who's like teamed up with her. He tries to make him paralyze her in the back of the neck. And that's when Ed Skrein and his men show up, because they're going to take them all and execute them, because they're, the rebel army or whatever, hence Rebel Moon, trying to fight back against these evil fascist military dudes. And he gets ready to put the thing in the back of her neck to paralyze her, but instead he doesn't. He frees her, and he uses it to like kill the bounty hunter dude who betrayed him, I was glad that guy got killed. You get Ed Skrein doing a fight with a stick, which he's like married to the stick in the movie. He constantly walks around with it, and he just keeps beating the shit out of people with a stick, and you just can't ever let the stick go, even when the whole place is being blowed up. You got Ray Fisher here as a character. He doesn't get a lot to do. He's kind of underused, but he does get a cool action scene before he dies, which was kind of fun, but he is underused here. Most of the characters are all well acted. And then you get to the final action scene at the end where Sofia Boutella fights Ed Skrein. It's a pretty fun little action scene. This does definitely feel like a part 1. Like, you don't feel like anything super major is accomplished, and that is one of the weaknesses of the film. But I had enough fun with the action and stuff like that at the end, and Ed Skrein getting his ass kicked, even though he does live, and he has a terrible haircut in this movie. Even though he does live to be set up for the next one, you find out like the dude that they're serving, whatever, is the old military guy or whatever who like abducted Sofia Boutella's character to like put her in the military. So you find out he's leading everything now. And but like I said, the movie, it does feel like something that's like stretched out in order to make this a chapter 1 for the most part of the movie. Like, this easily, like, you really feel like Snyder could have cut a bunch of this out and just took the second movie, and it's probably going to be over long too, and cut a bunch of it out and probably just combine these to make one strong movie that was probably an awesome flick. You really do feel like he probably could have just done that. But in terms of this movie, though, because of the action, I was having fun with it, and I didn't mind the characters, and I like the sci-fi world for the most part that Snyder's created here. And then by the time you get to the end, they're like going back to the farming planet with Sofia Boutella leading the way, and they're there, and they think everything's going to be okay. And you see the robot off in the distance who is there, voiced by Anthony Hopkins, who they introduced earlier in the movie, and he's kind of just like living off the land apparently, and he's got like a homemade helmet or something out of, looks like a deer antler or something, which they're setting him up to be a bigger part in part 2. And you get and then you see that Ed Skrein's character or whatever, he lived even though he got stabbed in the stomach, and then they pretty much I'm not sure how he survived that, but they pretty much rejuvenate him with these cables or whatever attached to his body, and zap him back to life. And he's like, I vow revenge, and that's pretty much where it ends. Him like screaming up in the air, like but it works in terms of dramatically at the end because they're zapping him to like wake him back up and get his brain functioning again, and that's where it cuts off. So yeah, overall, I liked it. It does definitely feel like a part one. It does not feel like a complete full story, but it feels like a complete full story enough for what they set up in this movie for them wanting to defend like their farming planet or whatever. Sophia Botello's character feels like a full enough story of that for it to be cut off here. This is not a great movie. Maybe if you had like big expectations for this, you might not like it. You might feel let down. But for me, for watching it, I'm fine with it. I'd give it a 3 out of 4. I was entertained. I didn't love it. It didn't blow me away. I had fun with the action. It was a strong finish for the movie. For the most part, this flick ranged from like alright to decent. And then by overall, towards the end, I was entertained enough by the action to give it a 3 out of 4. Overall, good time. I didn't love it, I didn't hate it, but it was overall good. Maybe if I saw this in theaters or something, I'd probably knock it down to just like a 2 out of 4 because I would have paid to watch it and it would have felt less like a complete full movie. But watching it at home on streaming or whatever, this is easily a 3 out of 4 for me. It was good, it was fine. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.